Herm is perfect for our next topic because he's been around the NFL for 35 years. He knows the mindset of the old school players. He's also very much in touch with today's players. And apparently the rift between the two is growing daily. We know about the lawsuits that a lot of the former players are involved in right now against the NFL. And then Monday night, Chris Carter made some news when he talked about bounties that he placed on offense or defensive players, rather. It's hard to say exactly what led to Falcons receiver Roddy White's tweet, but here it is. It's crazy how football players are killing our game. You signed up to play a violent game and made a lot of money. Now you talk bad about it. All right. He was then asked by someone else on Twitter whether or not he would trade his job for anything. He responded with this: "No, I love playing football. If I can't walk when I'm 50, it was well worth it." All right. Again, strong. Let's go back to that first tweet. Hermie says that former players are killing the NFL. Does he have a point?
He does have a point. He really does. But I think he has realized this, too. Back early in the 60s and in the 70s, when you thought about concussions and all these things, probably wasn't talked about a lot.
Didn't have enough information.
Yeah. So those are the players right now that are a little bit disappointed in the league. But here again, it's like anything else. As we go on in life, we learn more things. We become more educated. I think the players today are fairly more educated than the ones in the past.
Sure.
And so that has something to be said about it. But I like his second quote. What he said is this, and I agree with him. If you could turn back the time for me, I sign up right now.
You do it all over again.
Play.
Interesting.
And I've got 2 knees, can't run anymore.
Right.
Got a shoulder that needs surgery, won't get it done. And I'm okay with all that.
Yeah.
I really am, because I get it. I understand that this is a sport. There's some violence involved in it. But let's look at it this way. What can we do to help it? See, because this sport's going to go on. We want the next generation of kids to play this sport.
Yeah.
I think when you think about football, what we see as fans is we watch it on Sunday or Saturday or Friday. Let's go back to high school, okay? Friday nights, Saturday, college, no football on Sundays. Practice. That's where it starts, in my opinion, practice. That alleviates a lot of this in this sense. Skip, and you know this. You used to cover Dallas. You used to cover teams. You practice more than you play. Well, how is your practices being constructed anymore? I mean, you know, if you can stop, because remember, you play high school for about 4 years, you play college for about 4 or 5 years. You've got 9 years of totally playing football before you even get to the pros, if you're lucky to get there.
Right.
Well, all those hits become what? A problem.
Yeah, they all add up.
And it all adds up. And I think if you can take away some of those things and conduct practice a little bit better. Now, coaches don't like hearing that. But if you really want to...
Did you change how your teams practiced?
Oh, I think, no doubt. I mean, and I think tackling has a lot to do with it, with the face and the head. You got to take that out of the picture now. Right. So all these things. And with that being said, you're still going to have injuries.
Hey, not only are you going to... Listen, for any kid who wants to play pro football, it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when you're going to get hurt. I don't care what you say. You can make it as safe as you want to. It's still a violent game played by bigger, stronger, faster, year after year after year. So I ask you, once upon a time, you were an undrafted free agent who made it big in the National Football League in Philadelphia. Did you know going in that you could get hurt playing football? Absolutely, you did.
You saw it every day.
Yeah. Every player does.
Look,
it's a known risk.
And we're more old school from previous generations, but all I heard coming up as a young reporter is your NFL lifespan will be, and for running backs it was always 3.2, but even for everybody else it was about 5 years. If you were lucky. Yeah. Okay? So don't bring to me, I didn't know what they were going to do to me, as if somebody held a gun to your head and made you get concussions. Okay? Exactly. I don't want to hear that. Now, are today's players more enlightened? Are they more aware and informed? Sure they are, and that's great. And have we tried to clean up the game with the tackle? Yes, we've made it the best we can make it. They're doing the best they can. But for the older players, I don't want to hear, I didn't know. Yes, you did. Now, maybe you didn't know about your head, but as you say, you know your knee's going to go. Yeah. Your shoulder's going to go. Something's going to go.
So you agree with Roddy White?
Yeah, it was great. I love this tweet from Roddy White. Now, the second half of it about today's players killing the game, I don't want them to kill the game. I want them to make the choice again that they made when they chose to play. If Kurt Warner doesn't want his sons to play, I'm fine with that. I mean, is it okay? Is it okay with you?
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%.
That's fine. That's not killing the game. That's just making a choice for your kids that you don't want to see them get hurt the way you got hurt.
We are a collection of our choices in life. We all are a collection of our choices, what we choose to do. And you understand, we have enough information now as a football player. Starting in high school, you have to know, if you continue to play, and you're fortunate enough to play pro football, not even pro football, let's just make it through high school football, that injuries will occur.
Right.
That's part of it.
Stephen A., do you agree with Roddy White's initial premise there that former players are killing the NFL?
I do, but I don't like it. I hear what Coach and Skip are saying. They're not wrong. But I do believe that there is an appropriate, neutral position to take here. Roddy White is right when he talks about how we know what we signed up for and that I don't want to hear it and you're killing the game. You're trying to kill the game, and it offends me. I totally understand that. I totally agree with Skip's premise about not wanting to hear that. We didn't know because nobody believes that. That's just asinine. But we need to take into account not just his quotes, but the impetus for it in terms of why it was necessary and also the agenda behind that. These people are attacking the sport to some degree. They are acknowledging that the sport is dangerous and it is alluding to things that they may not have known. While we don't have to buy that, we have to take into account that there's a level of resentment and hostility towards the NFL that is palpable and, dare I say, to some degree, arguably justifiable. I am a supporter of Roger Goodell and the measures that he's taken to safeguard the game and to protect the shield. I think he's a fabulous commissioner. I'm a fan. But at the same time, even though to some degree I may even feel that way about DeMaurice Smith, and even Gene Upshaw before him, the late Gene Upshaw, God rest his soul. Let's be honest about something here. The NFL was not always the #1 sport in America. It was America's national pastime, Major League Baseball. Football has taken the bull by the horn. They've taken the country by storm. It's the #1 sport in America. We never in our wildest dreams imagined that it would elevate to being a multi-billion-dollar establishment, bringing in a minimum of $9.3 billion a year, projected to bring in anywhere from $12 billion to $18 billion a year over the next decade, which amounts to anywhere from $120 or $30 billion to $180 billion. If you're an old school player, forgive me if they have a problem with the fact that there's nothing in it, or there seems to be nothing in it for them. I don't know the intricacies of the NFL pension system and things of that nature, Coach. I'm not aware of the details about that. But I've spoken to enough players, old school and modern day players, who allude to what is life going to be like for me when my playing days are over, or those where it's passed them by. They're like, what are you doing for these guys that helped build the game? We work at a company that employs Mike Ditka. He was on Capitol Hill. He was all over the airwaves. And what was he against? He was in favor of the retired players, and he was against the league and the Players Association because he was saying there's something that needs to be done for these guys. So in other words, they elevated the popularity of the sport, and now that the sport is raking in all of this money, if they're saying, what about us? I don't think that's a crime. And to me, the modern day player has to stand up. A Roddy White, this is my last point, a Roddy White, while I can appreciate the sincerity of his comments, he's got to ask himself, what contribution has he made to the NFL? And 20 or 30 years from now, when he's not playing any longer, do you want the NFL to act like you didn't exist? That you had nothing to do with the growth of the league? I just think that these players, it's a neutral position, because I think that these players, while I can respect the fact that they're trying to protect today's game, they need to take into account the fact that there were those who came before them that helped build this game that they're profiting from now.
Stephen A., you make a great point, and I agree with you totally. And I think what happens to young players is they don't understand this. And this was a part of the collective bargaining agreement. I think they got a nice agreement for themselves, but here again, they never looked at the end of their career. And they don't look back in the past of the players that came before them. You're exactly right. There was enough money to fund some of these veteran players that have played back in the 60s and the early 70s, and they didn't get that money. Because young players, when you come into this league, it's no different when I came to the league in 1977. You think you're bulletproof. You never think you're going to get old. You never think your body's going to, wither and Father Time's going to catch up with you, because you don't have that mindset when you're an athlete. And when you get to pro football, you realize this: you have a short window of time when you get to play this great game of football. And then when you get older, when you get into your 50s and 60s, your body, all of a sudden, the wear and tear starts adding up. And if you don't take care of those players in some form or fashion, they resent the young players because of the money that the young players are making. And I think when you're a young player, you have to realize you're not bulletproof. You are not bulletproof. You will be 50, 60-year-old one day, and hopefully this league will benefit you for what you've done in the past.
How is the league taking care of you as a former player? Do you feel that they've met all of your needs from a medical standpoint?
Right now, I haven't used the league for any medical standpoint.
But you said you need.
Yeah, but I haven't gone to. I don't want to get a shoulder. I don't want to get an operation on my shoulder.
If you were to start the process, because I believe it was Jay Feely was in, and he said something that was very interesting. He said that standard operating procedure is the league automatically denies any and all claims of workman's comp.
Yes.
The first shot, and they make it so difficult for the player to receive any benefits that many of them throw their hands up and say, I give.
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape. There's no doubt about that. There's a bureaucracy you have to deal with.
Does the league have to fix that?
Yeah, the league needs to fix it. And Roddy doesn't understand the player, and Skip can attest to this. I mean, he was back in the days when I played, and before that, we watched football, played football, that those guys are suffering. Mike Ditka was on Capitol Hill. He's exactly right. He had a valid point that those guys need to be taken care of. They gave them a little bit of money, but the money they left on the table was a shame.
Okay, now
Can I say?
Go ahead.
I want to say something real quick. Skip, we have to take into account that, I remember covering the NBA, in the early 80s. You were covering it then. Skip, it was on tape delay. And the average league salary was $100,000. Now it's $5 million. And that's the NBA, which is nothing compared to the NFL. And all I'm saying is, when you look at these players, you're looking at billions upon billions of dollars that's changing hands. And people who had nothing to do with uplifting the league back in the day are now profiting off of it. I'm not just talking about players. I'm talking about administrative officials. I'm talking about a whole bunch of people. Everybody wasn't in the NFL league. What about when Pete Rozelle was the head of the NFL? What about when Paul Tagliabue was the head of the NFL? You have some people who are profiting, making 6 and 7 figures annually, benefiting from the billion-dollar industry and conglomerate that the NFL has become.
Okay. Skip,
the
make your final
retired
point
players
before
and
we move
others.
on.
I got no problems. I got no problems with them wanting
Okay,
more.
go ahead.
Let's bring it back to Coach and I here. Known you for a long time. I'm gonna ask you a hard question here.
Okay.
The players from your generation.
Yes.
Many of them feel like the NFL owes them a lifelong living, like they should be taken care of. And I have an issue with that. And I don't know if it ever bothers you, because this is a fine line we're talking about here. They still, as we originally talked about, you knew what you're getting into. It's high risk, high reward. Now, you didn't have the highest rewards then, but you were making more money than a lot of civilians were.
That's exactly right.
Okay? It was still pretty good. And the fame-fortune ratio was extreme, because you can become famous and do your card shows and your appearances the rest of your time. Sometimes I cringe over this whole idea of I'm owed a living by the NFL because it's the billion-dollar business it is. And I don't know that you are owed. I think you have to go in with the mindset, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to make all I can. I'm going to build up my portfolio and my aura, my national profile. And then that's going to be the end of it. And I'm not sure the league owes you after that.
No, I agree. I think the league owes you this. And I've said this many a time. Health benefits, you should be able to get health benefits benefits from the National Football League as long as you're on this earth. I believe
And that presently is not the case.
That's not the case.
Okay.
I believe that. There's
Fair
enough
enough.
money funded in there to take care of the former players that have been injured that they can always have medical care. You do that for a player, in my opinion, you've come a long way as a league.